Hello everyone and welcome to Story Manifest. So on tonight's video I am going to show you some of the places that I see on my daily walk that usually inspire some kind of stories or imagination, and just have a look. It is very beautiful. I'm going to show you the different sites. I'm going to tell you some of the stories that I've kind of imagined inspired by that site, and then I'm going to invite you to come up with your own stories that might be inspired by that site. I'll just see if I can. I have a little friend. Are you there? This is either Lucy or Susie. I'm not sure. Or is it Susie? It's one of her sheep. So this field is called the Long Bog. A lot of my stories tend to come from this particular field. There's nearly always some connection to it. Some of the things that I've come up with here, there's been a Viking who was left out to be sacrificed in the wild. There has been, I've just added a few headstones, and there was a forensic scientist who came back from the dead to solve a murder. Another person's story, not my own, had a Stone Age warrior who died hunting a boar in a field, something like this, and his cries echoed through time. It is one of the most atmospheric places. It doesn't do it justice when it's nice and in the sunshine, but I have been out on nights where there was a frost and a fog, and then there was a full moon, and it was one of the most incredible places. It was otherworldly. So the Long Bog, what does it inspire in you? So just on the horizon you can see a mound. Now this is Ardine, and it's believed to be what remains of a Norman Motte and Bailey settlement. So the keep would have been up on this hill, and then over this direction there is another hill. Now, I'm looking at it from the forest, and you can kind of get a sense of Irish settlers maybe attacking the Norman settlement. Also, this particular forest would have been where the IRA hid out during the Irish War of Independence. So there's something about looking at these kind of tame pastoral fields from the forested wild area, and there's this sense of keeping watch, of planning, and it almost kind of, it's guerrilla tactics, and it's always inspired this sense of conflict. So some of my stories, wherever there needs to be a very tense approach, almost sneaking through the grass to get into a keep, have been inspired by this area. But what does this kind of scene evoke in you? Alright everyone, so this is what I call the Witch's Hollow. It is a new find. Now I have more than one Witch's Hollow in this forest, and if you ever wanted to truly terrify yourself, get a camera, go to a forest and talk about witches, because there's nothing more Blair Witch Project than that. I call this the Witch's Hollow. I think it is perfect because it's pretty dark. You can see either side of me is the perfect place to build a cabin. Behind me there is a gap between the trees, which is your perfect place if you want to look at the moon or you want to see the sun's movements. Now, if you have a quick look at the ground, it's very soft, it's very loamy, it's snug, and I think witches, as opposed to druids and other magic users, they like their snugness. They have a cat, and I think that says that they like some of the home comforts. This is why this part of nature, which actually has a bit of comfort to it, I think might draw a witch. There is something about this ground which is very inviting, and I sort of see characters who might be escaping from something. They're running through the forest and they're exhausted, and the ground is so inviting. At the moment it's dry, it's soft and it's warm, that they lie down. And it's then as they make their way into the soft ground and they become embedded in it naturally, that the ground almost reaches up and blankets them, but then starts to drag them down and they become kind of buried alive. And there's something about this place which it creates the story rather than me. So this is my newest Witch's Hollow. There are some kind of stones dotted around the place which sort of look like they're in a circle, and again that's going back to almost the Druid tradition, and it's nature and comfort combined in one area. The perfect site for a witch. Now I can't do it justice, but the light coming through here is phenomenal, and it's such a contrast with the dark of the forest. But that's my Witch's Hollow. What would you have living here? So this is the first site that I like to call the encounter with nature. Now normally the character that I kind of see around here is a nobleman, a group of noblemen, and they're on horseback, and they tend to either be early medieval Gaelic nobles, or they tend to be Norman sort of high medieval lords. The thing that differentiates them is they're all wearing red and green, but the Gaelic noble has a gold brooch, whereas the Norman lord has a falconer's glove. And what I kind of see is as they're going around here, and I've just literally missed the bird I wanted to talk about, but usually as I'm walking through here, a buzzard will come by and it'll swoop down in sort of this circular motion, and it will fly off then into the deeper forest. There's something really kind of, you're like, whoa, because they're pretty big, and it's a very vivid encounter, and I can almost see these noblemen coming along. The buzzard swoops down and it stops the horses. The horses kind of walk back and forth a little bit startled, and it gives the people on horseback a moment's pause, and it's sort of that connection with nature, that startling moment. It gets them back in tune with their gut, and it gives them a warning that there's danger ahead of them. Now that's what I see on that particular pathway. There's something about it. You have a tame pathway that's in the middle of a forest, and it's perfect for bringing a horse along, but there's also something very ancient about it. But I'm also going to show you another place where there can be kind of a startling encounter with nature. So you can see the pathway behind me. There is a bend, and imagine the same warriors. They are coming around the corner and they look up into these trees, and all they see is grey crows, which are not here today. But this is another kind of connection with nature, and it's much more foreboding, a sense of dread, a very less empowered feeling than you get when you see the buzzard. So it's kind of a sense of foreshadowing, but it's the change from kind of you're moving from that nice pathway into a little bit of a deeper part of the forest. So if we were to follow the same noblemen who are going through the forest, they've gone from a nice sturdy pathway into somewhere slightly more off the beaten track, and finally they're kind of ending up here, which is the pathway is beginning to descend into the forest. But as they are moving through the trees, they get to an opening, and in that opening they see the stag. That's the largest mammal in Ireland, land mammal. And the encounter with the stag is pretty significant for anyone. They are a powerful animal, they are absolutely beautiful. But I don't know if anyone's seen Highlander, the main character, Connor MacLeod. He encounters a stag, and it's kind of the symbol for him stepping into his own power, and the stag as a symbol for the noble warrior is kind of powerful, because you have this noble beast that isn't a predator but is ferocious in its own right. So that's always the sense as I'm journeying through the different encounters with nature through birds and mammals, they kind of lend to different parts of the story. And it's incredible how our sense of place changes a story and can inspire something out of nowhere. If you are ever stuck for something to write, I kind of encourage you to get somewhere, let a place dictate the story and give you some ideas. But these are the places which tend to inspire me on a daily basis. I hope maybe they've given you a bit of food for thought, but thank you so much for watching.